fine. But we realized that, hey, these are gonna be extended outages. I'm not gonna have 2 generators because I'm gonna need them both, right? So we talked to the board 4 or 5 months ago. It's like, hey, we need to do something here. We need to get ahead of this. Again, being smart on these projects, that generator right there on the bottom left, it has 2 hours of runtime on it. We got it for free. It's a 65 kW propane generator and that transfer switch from a neighboring agency. It was a surplus, right? So we quickly scrambled. We got an electrical contractor up there, got the propane in. That generator went online 8 hours before the first shut-off. And ran for like 2-3 days straight. I mean, boy, I was on pins and needles. But
and if living without electricity is tough, living without water is a lot tougher.
Yeah, and again, the board a number of years ago put a generator in up the water treatment plant, right? So the water treatment plant's got its own. We had a spare generator that we could just get by right here, but we got that thing in just in the nick of time. It really paid off. Okay, I'm wrapping up here. The reservoir project, I want to skip to this next slide. I think it shows better context. So on the left-hand side, that's an aerial shot of the reservoir. The reservoir is the only storage that we have up here at the district. So in 2014, it was, hey, let's start moving forward and dealing with the pipeline situation. Let's pick the priority pipelines and let's just start just as a slow burn and start doing that, right? So that we don't hit some point in time when it really starts to fail. The reservoir cover was put in 1990. It started out as uncovered, right? When the old timers here had been here in the 70s, that was an uncovered reservoir, right? But rules and regulations changed. They were forced to put that in 1990. They put that reservoir cover on. Hitting 30 years old, they just get beat up by the sun. Hypalon is like a thick plastic. It's a PVC type plastic, and it just bakes out there day after day in the sun. It stretches. It goes up and down with the reservoir. You can see right there that black. This is a seam that we've just been having nothing but problems with. So we had divers out a couple months ago. They had to go down underneath and prop that up out of the water, and they were able to patch it and keep it out. So we run the reservoir like 6 inches of drop so we don't stress that reservoir cover. Because if that reservoir cover breaks, we may have water in the pipes, but it's non-potable. It'll be a boil order, and it'll be weeks or longer because there's no good way to fix that reservoir. The inlet line on the reservoir failed. You can see this white pipe. It used to be a pipe that went underground and discharged right about here. We have it inspected regularly by divers, and the bottom was like a big water bed. It was like, what is going on? Because there's another Hypalon liner underneath to seal the cement that's down there, right? Where could this be? So they had a camera. The next day they came back, they ran a camera through the inside of that pipe, and lo and behold, there was a crack. And it just happened to be jetting between the liner and the gunite, and we caught it. So they capped it on an emergency basis. We ran this up over the top and through here. So this goes down, then there's a pipe that the divers put in that goes down there. There's another 2 big pipes here. Those are the outlets. If the outlets break, we're done, right? There's no good way to do that. So we're trying to come up, to come up with a fix for that, we pursued a Prop 1 funding application in 2016. That's through the state. So Prop 1, we all voted it in, right, as ratepayers or residents of California. So we immediately put in it's a 150-page application that went in, asked for funding, requested a grant out of it. They were very unresponsive. Everybody piled in. One of the problems that you have as a small district that is in compliance is you don't get attention, right? If we were out of water, boiler all the time, we would probably get a little bit more attention, whether it be grant or loan, I couldn't tell you, but we would certainly get more attention. During that time period, we met with USDA to say, hey, is there any way, and they were, hey, we'll fund it, no problem. We can't get a grant from them because of our demographics. They looked at the census block, they looked at the MHI in Christian Valley, and Georgette will speak a little bit to this, ineligible for grant money. So that's what we pursued. The state is opening up another round of like a Prop 1, it's a different program now. We'll put an app in for that and see what comes, but we can't hang our hat on. So with that, I'm going to turn it back.
Well, the good news is that we're getting a tank for instance, and replacing
Right.
the reservoir, so
Right.
if that wasn't clear.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So the design is almost complete. It will go out to bid in January, if everything holds on schedule. Should have a contractor on board, awarded and starting work in April, right? So it goes out to this public bid process, USDA reviews all the bids, make sure it's all good. And then it gets awarded and they build it, and it's really complicated because we don't want to go through summer with half our storage, right? And we don't have enough room, so one tank is going to go in the footprint of the old reservoir, and the other is going to go off to the side.
Okay, so that's just kind of some of the projects that are going on right now. We gave you the background of the board, some of the projects that that are going on now, and we're going to talk a little bit about future state and some of the work that we want to do going forward, and also how we did the rate study to fund this. So next slide, please. So ultimately, the system needs to be maintained. It doesn't just maintain itself. It has to be. We're constantly doing work and upgrades to it. Sometimes it breaks. Sometimes it's functioning well. It should be running great, but it breaks and we have to fix it. Sometimes it just gets old. It's gonna get old. It's already old. And we're trying to prep for that. And we're trying to do it systematically, proactively, rather than wait till the pipes break. We want to start replacing them now and stretch the cost over time. So it's not that we're gonna have to do all this work right now because now all these pipes are broken. If we don't invest in the pipes, they're going to degrade. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? I think everybody's clear on why we have to invest. I think Jerry did a great job. You can see some examples of the pipes. The picture's not very clear, but the pipes are already, they have a lot of, what do you call it, sediment.
Well, that's corrosion.
Corrosion.
And buildup.
Yeah, which is typical of pipes. Like I said, when I replaced the pipes in my house, I was getting poor pressure, the water was dirty, and all of a sudden putting pipes in and it's clean water.
Those are the steel pipes, not the asbestos ones, corroding.
Well, we have mainly asbestos pipe, but we have a big problem with some concrete mortar lined steel that we have out there. Particularly at the services where they mix the brass with the steel, there's these little corrosion cells, and man, it just goes.
Just real quick, you guys tell us, this isn't a question I'm gonna need 3 minutes for, but this is something, I think before we ask the questions, we're gonna need to know, is what do we have available in reserves right now? What are the expenses? And how much do you think you're gonna get in revenue after you increase our taxes?
Okay, well, we can cover that.
I'd like to hear all that before we start.
Yeah, and Georgetta, she'll cover most of that.
Who's gonna cover the revenue part that she's talking about?
So she will as well. So let's get through this, a couple more slides, and then we're gonna get into that. So,
Well, that are also concerned the very first thing that you had on your.
right, so let's keep
How
going.
many people
Right.
you have signed up?
Right,
And how many do you not have signed up?
we'll keep going to presentation, and we'll get back to that. Okay. So again, it needs to be invested in, otherwise you're gonna run into the PG&E issue that we already experienced. So we didn't invest in it, it's gonna fall on us, we're not gonna get, our hydrants are already failing us, we're already impacted by some of the insurance issues that are going on, all that stuff. We need to make sure that we have water in the community and that we're investing in the community. So next slide real quick. Just quickly kind of review of some of the projects that are planned as part of the CIP program. So I'll let Jerry speak to that real quick.
So what we did is we put together a CIP using mapping, system A, and prioritization. So there's a series of figures that, we identified what priority pipelines are, what the problematic pipelines are, and then try to figure out a reasonable timeframe to start addressing, those. And we came up with the Allen and Gregg, that's that steel, cement mortar lined steel, and in Witt, it's got that same stuff. Leaks are popping up in that as well. There's also a number of areas in the district, we're trying to think ahead. We know this can't all be done at once, right? But there's certain things we can do that can help deal with issues when they do occur. So we went through and we identified areas where there's kind of strategic valves that aren't there. So in other words, a great example was there was a main break on Christian Deli Road, right? And it was out, away from Allen, between Allen and William. And it was one of these where we couldn't shut the main down, we couldn't fix it hot. And we were looking at a major shutdown, just the way the valving, there's nothing up at Gale and Ross that can shut down that. So after that little episode, it was like, hey, let's take a step back and see where where we need new valve, or need valve clusters, not new, I'd be happy with an old valve, but try to figure out, so we identified about 10 different spots where, man, if we had a cluster of valves there, hey, we could shut down and not as many people be affected, we could fix it faster and whatnot. So we call them the valve projects. There's a 10-inch main that comes down from Greg, and we're gonna be tying into that as part of the tank project, but it goes cross-country, across this Ponderex and ties it down at the bottom of Greg. Anybody who's familiar, that guy dropped that big tree, there's this big dead tree that was out there. Our main was about 10 feet, you know, from that, right? So we got rid of that old Widowmaker, which is good. But if that breaks, we're all out of water, right? There's, you know, so that's on the list as a priority. Knock on wood, there's never been a problem on it, but it's on the list of something that needs to get looked at and addressed, maybe further out. There's also 2 critical pipe sections, one between Stanley and Mary. As you go out, if that would fail, that's the one that goes down. So you make that left on Stanley and then you kind of keep going down. That's an umbilical cord down to Mary, and then Thomas and Gaba, Nancy and all those. And to make it worse, it goes under that creek right there. There's that big structure, right? So that's one of the things, like, as a water person, you know, you lay up and worry about stuff, and that's a worrisome pipe for me. So that made the list as, and then Gale to Virginia, it's a very similar situation, where Gale ties in there to Stanley and goes out to Virginia. That's another umbilical cord with the highest pressure that we have in the system, right through there. So that made it as a high priority, not a problem at this point. And then the last big one that was identified was a pipeline that would create a loop, and it would come out of the back of Gale and tie into, it'd be the east end of Kenneth on the east side of Virginia. And the reason that would be a good project is then you could lose that Mary to